Hey y'all, what's up? Chad Wright coming at you here once again on the channel, Team Righteous. And today we're working on a 2006 GSX-R 1000 for a customer. So the customer brought us the bike, had engine issues and everything. This is like a new bike that he bought that had been run down and been parked for a while. So we got the engine in there for him and everything. We had to wait on a tank to come in because his tank was destroyed. So he got a new tank, or well, a used tank anyways, and it come with the fuel pump and everything. Tank was clean. We thought the pump was clean too. Put it in there, go to start the bike, and it's not running very well. So we take it out, go over here, and we're cleaning injectors. So we're cleaning injectors out. But while we're at it, we said, hey, let's go ahead and flow test the pump. Make sure that the pump is putting out enough fuel to be able to make the engine run. It's not even nowhere close. So that's where our issue is. So it's only putting out about 100 milliliters in 10 seconds, where it should put out a minimum of 165. So it should put out a minimum of 165. Generally, you end up with way more than that too. You end up generally around 250 to 300 milliliters in 10 seconds. So anyways, here at 57 Motorsports, we have a mod that we do on the first gen Hayabusas. I believe second gen Hayabusas we can do too. Older Gixxers, 600s, 750s, 1000s. And we're able to do a mod on these and it fixes the issue. So we'll show you that here in just a moment, as soon as we get this fuel pump out of the tank.
Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and pull this pump assembly and do a bypass. First step, pretty simple. You disconnect your fuel line, remove the rear bolt from the tank and the two uppers, and unplug your fuel pump. The tank will lift away. Unless it has been bypassed internally on the fuel pressure regulator or the pump has an issue, it should not leak fuel, but you should empty the tank before you do this. Definitely recommend emptying the tank. You remove these 5 bolts real quick. I just toss them up here. They can chill. Be careful removing the pump. There is a float on here. You don't want to bend it or break it. Kind of got to fish it around, work it out. And there's your pump assembly. Be aware of this O-ring and make sure it stays in place. You don't want to screw that thing up. They're expensive.
Yeah, and the float in these things, very expensive too. They're like $200 from an OEM one, brand new.
Yeah, this little float is very, very sensitive. If you scratch this, chip this, anything in here, you're going to get a fault. So we're going to go ahead and remove this float. It's a screw here and a screw here. And then you follow it down these 2 wires. Keep track of where the wires connect. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do that quick and we'll move forward from there.
Ain't nobody stopping me.
You're gonna have to pry up very gently on this. Just kind of work your way around. Don't crack it. There's an O-ring in here that is sticky and it might give you some struggles. You just kind of gotta keep working your way around. It'll free up.
She's starting to come.
Yeah, she's starting to come. That O-ring's fighting the shit out of me. If you can see a shadow here, that's an O-ring. Inside of there, you'll see that travel down. Once it gets to the end, this thing's just gonna shoot off of here.
Like we've always just pulled them until they let go. That's how you get a big mess out of everything.
Exactly why I'm more cautious now, because the first time I did this, it just spewed everywhere.
It's all in your mouth.
And
I would try to make that kind of video.
We're getting real close to coming off. There it went. Now down here in the bottom should be a whole lot of sediment. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this connector from the pump motor itself. It's got a little safety you push down and pull up. And I'm gonna pop the pump motor out while I'm coming apart with this, because that's the easiest way to go about this. Come on, pop out. Oh, pump motor retainer is gonna hold me in place. I do have to get that wire off. I was hoping I could cheat it like a Gen 1. Didn't want to. For those in the comment section, I know it's a 7mm. I know these are pliers. It does the job. My 7mm is an hour away. I'm not about to go get it for this. When I rent it, pliers will do the job just fine. Just gotta be careful. So this, everyone refers to having their filter replaced and their pump replaced, okay? And yes, you may pay $100 plus labor, usually about $290 is what I've been seeing average, that people will pay for a pump kit and labor to have it installed. If your bill is less than $800, they didn't fix your fuel pump, okay? Unless they do a bypass. Now you can ask them if they bypassed it. Most places won't know what you're talking about because they won't do it. They want to replace this whole assembly, and that is like $800. This pump is cheap, but it doesn't solve your problem. Yes, this is a major issue, and it is causing a restriction, but there's also an internal filter in this that is shot. So that's what we're gonna bypass. But for now, yeah, that is nasty. We're definitely got a nasty sock there. So there's two little clips here. Be very careful with them. They can be brittle.
Because they're soaking in gas.
Because they're soaking in gas, and gas now contains ethanol, which is not grand to certain plastics. That will pop off. And now this filter sock, it is your pickup sock, not your fuel filter, should pop off. If it wants to. Rubber ring here.
And by the way, for those y'all are wondering, this pump come out of a crystal clean tank.
Yeah, you can have this happen in a clean tank. It happens. Sediment goes to the bottom. There it goes. And there you go. One very nasty, covered in, looks like leaves and gravel dust. Primarily just leaves and gravel dust. So this wasn't even a rust issue motor. This is just someone probably had their gas cap open and the leaves were blowing around and it got a leaf or two in it. That can come from 1 or 2 leaves. That's all it takes to plug this thing up. They'll degrade, they break down into slime, and you wind up with nastiness. So we're gonna hopefully clean this one up. Normally I would put a new one in on a customer bike. This customer is on a super tight budget and doesn't have much money to spend. So we're gonna go ahead and try and save this one. It's not cracked or brittle, so it should be able to be cleaned out. There's your pump. All right, inside of here, you cannot see it. I'm gonna see if I can line up where we can see it. There's an O-ring here for the top of the pump. See if I can get this to spit out some yummies. Oh yeah, we can. Let me find some. All right, so I'm just putting brake clean in here to get us some solution to break the shit down. But inside of here, no one cleans this. They just put that filter and that sock on. It's not even coming out hardly. But what did come out is just slimy, brown, nasty. Inside of here, there's a Micron screen directly behind here that is completely plugged. You can see the sediment coming out and just covering this filter in this housing. So we're gonna go ahead and bypass that internal filter and put an external on it. After we clean this out, yeah.
Coming out now.
Yeah, it broke through.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good stuff, good stuff. We'll put some air to this and try and blow it out the best we can. Before you bypass, you want to try and clean this up as best as you physically can. That means fill it with brake cleaner or whatever solvent you have, not acetone. Acetone will eat it. And shaking it and blowing air through it, whatever you gotta do to try and clear it out the best you can before you do the bypass. You can actually see how much fuel's in there. The whole thing's full. Probably can't see it on camera, but there's fuel all the way up to where my thumb is. So we'll go ahead and get this cleaned out the best we can, and we'll come back when we do the bypass. All right, so this is where your fuel pump went, into this hole. So this is gonna pump fuel in here, through a Micron screen, and refill this chamber. Hey, our compressor works great. Anyway, so the fuel pump picks up from that sock, forces fuel into here, where it is forced to go through the screen, okay? It goes into this chamber, through a screen, into this, we're gonna call it orifice. It's a jacket, where it can either come out the fuel pressure regulator and be returned to the tank if this is deadheaded with too much pressure, or continues out through the plate. Now, inside of here, God, I don't know how well you can see, you have a hole going down, a little triangular hole. That is where the fuel's coming in from the filter side. However, if you drill with the 3/16 bit at an angle, about like that, into this chamber, not out of this chamber, not out of the outside, into this chamber, you will bypass that filter. Now, the downside to this, if you don't put an external filter in, yes, I have a doofball light on. Okay, if you don't put an external filter on and you just do this mod, you will plug your injectors quicker than you can blink. So you definitely need to pick yourself up a good inline filter. We conveniently don't have one right now. If you can't tell, it's late at night. The shops are closed. We're gonna grab it tomorrow. And that's where we'll pick up the videos after I've drilled this hole. I'll show you that tonight. We'll pick up tomorrow, putting the pump back together, putting it in the bike with that filter.
Over again over there.
At an angle into the chamber.
All right.
And it's just that simple. We went at a down angle into the chamber over here. You don't want that hole to punch anywhere outside of there. If you punch outside of that chamber, you're gonna lose fuel pressure, and you're gonna lose it really, really quick. So now we're gonna get all the scummy crap out of here. See how much comes out. It's gonna be a lot. Look how much faster it's flowing in there. Just that alone increased the flow tenfold. But now, instead of it frickin' holding and not wanting to drain out, drains out fast. And you'll see, I just had a little piece come out now. You've got plastic in there from you drilling it. You gotta get all that crap out, guys. As Chad was telling me earlier, and yes, I agree, the best route is after you've done this and you've put it all together, before you hook it up to the fuel rail, run it out into a cup for a little bit. It'll let anything flow out of here.
Before you put it into the filter.
Yeah, before you put the filter on there, because you'll slug the filter too. So that's the bypass itself. We're gonna go ahead, clean this up, reassemble, and we'll pick up putting it back into the tank and putting it into the bike.
All right, so there you go. Got my goofy light on. And yeah, we're gonna finish putting this thing back together, and then we'll come back at y'all tomorrow, which will be later on in the video here, once we got the fuel filter so we can put it back together. See ya.
All right guys, so we did a flow test with the bypass complete. When we did the original flow test, we did a 10-second run on the fuel pump and we got 100 milliliters. Now 10 seconds is yielding, oh, right dead at 400, which is what that pump's rated for.
Same thing that the other bikes we've done have done.
Yeah, every bike winds up right at around 400 with the bypass. So that's 4 times the fuel going into that engine. When I was hitting the throttle, it would idle fine, run fine, and I'd hit the throttle and the injectors would demand more flow and the fuel pressure would drop and it just hiccup and fall on its face. So that was the solution for that. Now on the fuel line side, we're gonna have to put an external filter on here. Normally they have a hard line here. You take that hard line and you feel for where the barb is, you cut it off, and you very carefully take a razor blade and cut a little at a time until you can peel that line off. And you'll wind up with your Quick Connect fittings with a beautiful barb. Now, I use Pro One. It's a 30R6 fuel line, 5/16 ID. I buy it by the spool. This is E85 safe. So this is what I prefer to use. It's not necessary for a gas application because this is slightly more expensive, but it does the job very well, and we buy it in bulk on Amazon. You'll go ahead and slide that over, get some high quality freaking high pressure clamps, not cheap Chinese clamps. They'll blow off, you'll get fuel everywhere, and you can wind up with a fire. And you'll replace that length of line with a rubber hose. We're then going to cut this hose where it fits most optimally, and we're gonna fit a filter in here. We'll pick that up tomorrow and get it installed, and that'll solve all of our issue. Okay, you wanna make sure where that filter is located that when hooked up and shut, your line does not end up with a kink in it. If it gets a kink,
You got the same problem.
it's gonna act like you didn't fix it at all, okay? And always double check your lines, even if it's a stock line, make sure it's not kinked. Now, we still have to finish cleaning the injectors on this thing. We did do that. We do that as a mail-in service. We do $90 for a set of injectors mailed in for a set of 4, and $125 for a set of 8. We will clean them, flow them, make sure they match, and we'll get them sent back out to you. Or you can bring the bike to us, pay us some labor to pull them, and we'll go ahead and do it in-house.
What up? We're back. All right, so we are back. Day number 2. We have got the filter in on the bike, and Logan's gonna tell you about the filter, how you gotta put it on, and what else is going on here since we got it on here.
All right, so I'm gonna have Chad do a quick still frame right here of everything that the filter entails, the part numbers, all that. So the filter, we've gone ahead and we've removed the barbed ends and put a line running down and around, making sure you don't pinch this fuel line, okay? So let's see if that's a decent light. We're coming from the tank down into the inside of the filter. I've got it tucked down here against the block. Good quality clamps, good quality fuel injection rated hose. Do not use carburetor line, it's not rated for this kind of pressure. It needs to be rated for at least 45 to 50 PSI, if not more. Then from there we just come up to the rail. Pretty simple, straightforward install. The biggest thing is just make sure you don't kink your lines. If you get a kink, you're gonna know it because it's gonna act just like it did before. And now this bike before wouldn't rev out. You'd hit the throttle, it'd just die. Got a little tuning to do in the IAP map because the exhaust and such that's on it, but she's ready to go on the dyno. We're gonna get it on the dyno next, and should be a video on that maybe. We'll see.
All right, y'all, so there you go. That's how you fix your fuel filter the sort of correct way. That's the way that we do them to save customers not having to spend $800 on a new fuel pump, because whenever, like we said before, whenever you do the fuel pump, it's not just the pump that's inside there. Sometimes, very rarely, does that there ever go out, but generally, whenever you have fuel delivery issues, it's not the little sock on the bottom, it's not the fuel pump that's out, it's that screen that's inside of the housing that goes out. So anyways, appreciate all y'all. Drop down in the comments below if you learned anything from this, or if you got any other kind of hacks that you like to do that work to be able to, you know, save some money, and, you know, things that you've learned, I guess, over time working on bikes, to be able to do things different ways than having to spend thousands of dollars for, you know, $100 parts or $50 parts. All right, we're out.